Yeah, it's going to be a real good battle, this one. 16 minutes from when they rolled out onto the grid, so by the time they come around, there'll be around 13 minutes left on the clock. Plenty of time to sink our teeth into some good old-fashioned sports sedan racing here in South Australia as part of the Bend Classic. They've already visited 3 different states, New South Wales, Queensland, Victoria, and the penultimate round here in South Australia. Looking forward to this one. On the front row of the grid, on the left-hand side of the screen, Tim Slade in the Nissan Skyline. Alongside of him in the Holden Calibra, we have the championship leader, Stephen Tomasi. Who's going to win the drag race towards turn 1? Tomasi certainly not. Tim Slade, isn't he? He is broad ahead, down towards turn number 1, but the power, the speed of the GTR cannot be matched, and he draws back alongside towards turn number 1 and retakes the position. Ash Jarvis has made a good start. The TA2 team owner has moved on through ahead of John Hollinger in the Innovation race car. Steve Lacey is side by side with Humphrey on the exit of turn number 3. Who's going to prevail in that battle? It looks like it might be the old school Falcon, and it is. So Humphrey moves ahead of Lacey, although Lacey's going to be deeper under the brakes here. Back up the inside with the undercut at the hairpin and a lock up from Humphrey, but Lacey can't do too much with it because right in front of him is John Hollinger. So unfortunately for him, the number 78 has to get back in line and hold that 6th position just ahead of Matt Sims in the awesome looking BMW. How good does that look? Real aero equipment or bits on that particular BMW. Such variety, but all of them big banging sports sedans.
It's great to see Sims on board here all the way from Albury, New South Wales. Really much travelled cars. You see the one car 30 in the exit there. Our Perth-based driver there, Ryan Humphrey, was here earlier in the season for a state round. Now he's made a return back to the Nullarbor to compete in, which of course is the penultimate round of the National Series here at the Bend this weekend before they head to Phillip Island for Island Magic next month. So there they go. So Humphrey's still got his hands full with Steve Lacey just behind him, and those cars in 5th and 6th position. John Hollinger just in front of them in the green machine, just in front of him in the Mustang.
In he goes.
Fair bit of different riding machinery in that group. He's certainly got the amongst the new groups there. 2 Mustangs either side of that Falcon.
John Hollinger's machine, that is not a standard Innovation race car. That has been tuned up to sports sedan spec. I'll come on to that in a minute as Lacey dives up the inside of Humphrey into turn number 1. They're going to remain side by side through turn number 2, but now Lacey has the inside for turn number 3. Is he going to squeeze him out wide? He's certainly trying to, I think, but Humphrey, using the camber of the road, gets the power down earlier and roars back through the fast kink that is turn number 5. It's Humphrey once again that is ahead. This is a real ding-dong battle early on in this one. Lacey fires it around the outside now. He's the one later on the brakes, and they remain just about side by side, but Humphrey with the better exit prevails in that tussle. But what a duel so early on in this encounter. Well, Lacey got a little bit squirrely there, used a bit too much of the curb down the hill through, I think that was turn number 8, and that did upset the car a little bit. That's why he fell a couple of car lengths back, but it is out in front. Slade by a margin of bang on half a second at the end of the first lap. Jarvis just a little bit further behind in position number 3, and then it's this battle, Hollinger, Humphrey and Lacey, that we are focusing on at the moment. But those 2 fighting away at the start of this lap has certainly allowed John Hollinger to pull a little bit of a margin, as Humphrey there just got a bit sideways before the fishbowl. He is pushing hard out there at the moment in the Falcon, hard under brakes through the gearbox in the XE Falcon. Look at this, it's on for the lead. Tomasi, he's won all but one race this year so far. Race 3 in round 1 was the only one he didn't finish. Well, he didn't win and didn't finish it, so he's got a 100% finishing to win ratio, has Tomasi so far this year. there might be a two-time Supercars race winner in front of him, but that's not going to try and stop him making it 9 from 10 race victories.
Certainly, Steve Tomasi, very experienced campaigner in this series. He's been around for decades in this Calibra. It's a pretty well-known and iconic car, certainly in the series. And of course, Tim Slade driving the Brad Sherriff race tech entry here this weekend in the GTR. Very fast race car. It's been well documented, that race car too, being too fast at times. Certainly at Bathurst it was pretty controversial there. So there we go. So Steve Tomasi certainly more experienced in this category than what Tim Slade would be. Certainly a different mechanical monster, certainly than what Tim Slade is certainly used to. As he mentioned only a couple of weeks ago, running at the Bathurst 1000. Unfortunately, didn't finish that race, but come back in just a part-time role after his full-time retirement last year. Now, actually, Tomasi's back there, just as I called that. So certainly game on for the lead. Pretty cool-looking race cars as they head down towards turn 16. And over the crest they go. So this is the top two. So Tim Slade in front in the 66 and Steve Tomasi in the number 8 Calibra there. Gee, they're dominating. They've got away from Ash Jarvis. Look at the flame out there. Isn't that cool to look at? Coming out the back of that black car. And very dark gloomy conditions here. Not cold, but quite overcast. So where's Ash Jarvis? He's got a big break. He's back a little bit further. And there we go. This is the game on for position number 5. So that's Humphrey, and has actually been passed by John Hollinger there on the outside there at turn 18. Yes. And Steve Lacey wants a part of this too. In fact, let's go 3 abreast if you don't mind. Absolutely. Down towards turn 1, so Humphrey gets back up into that position and goes up into position number 4, only just under braking down there at turn 1.
And Lacey will move up the inside, so he's got 2, 4, 1 in the space of a couple of corners. So a big switch around. It was Hollinger up at the head of the queue. He was overtaken by Humphrey and then Lacey, and now Lacey has made his way past Humphrey. So a switch around from where they crossed the line. So all change for position number 4. So, oh no, that's the Jarvis, sorry, that's the Jarvis car going slightly from position number 3. The Tefol number 44 that was running all by itself in a very lonely 3rd position has got some sort of mechanical problem, and he is not running quickly at all. You can, of course, sports sedans, you try and build the fastest car possible, but sometimes when it's like this in sports sedans, there are mechanical dramas, and we are seeing one already in this one. What a shame for Ash Jarvis from 3rd position. He will sink down the order like the Titanic, unfortunately, with a big mechanical problem. Tomasi, fastest lap of the race last time by, the margin under half a second now. They 2 of them trading times, just a 10th separating them last time through. Or Lacey understeering through turn number 14 and then into the fishbowl. So these guys are pushing hard. I was just mentioning earlier on, I had to interrupt myself with the action that we saw on the track, but that number 23 machine of Hollinger last round, unfortunately Jeff Taunton had a big crash at Sandown Raceway. Oh, we got more action.
This is the lead.
Yeah.
It's about to change. No, it's not. So Slade on the inside in the race tech entry holds on to that lead, but gee, Steve Tomasi is hot on his hammer at the moment. This turns 2 and 3 down the northern part of the racetrack. Nice big flame out again under brakes, a little bit unburnt fuel, heads down through the exhaust manifold. And down they come, down the crest. Too strong here at the moment, so under brakes there, Tim Slade in the race tech entry, usually driven by Brad Sherriff in the series. Handing over the reins here this weekend to Tim Slade. Up the hill they go to turn 7. Big hill there too. They probably can't pick it up on our TV broadcast, but this part here where we're looking at the moment just drops completely downhill. It's a really big dip down through that section. And those people that are sitting up on that mound there at turn 5 look across, you actually lose them there. So here we go. So these 2 dominating in the moment. So obviously Steve Tomasi must have just got in front of him there a few corners back out of our shot, and obviously Slade now back in front.
Visibly you can see how much more speed Tomasi is carrying through, particularly the fast-flowing middle sector of the circuit. Talking to Slade in the lunch break just before, he said although this originally was built to be a time attack car, its strengths is certainly straight line poke and hard under brakes as well, whereas the Tomasi car, yes, it's very, very fast in a straight line, but look at the aero on it, look at the rear wing, look at the diffuser off the back as well. It has certainly some aerodynamic aero effect, and look at him through turn number 18, honing right in on the tail of Slade's machine as they come across the line. So Tomasi was briefly leading the race when they crossed the line last lap. Slade back in front as they move on through the lap traffic of Bernie Stack in the ex-Stephen Richards and Greg Murphy Kmart Commodore. So through they go, putting a lap on a V8 supercar. And Bernie Stack is no slouch behind the wheel either. That just shows how fast these modern day sports sedans are. They're lapping in the 1:51 51s and quite comfortably doing that as well. I mean, that's supercar territory. There's no doubt about that. They also lap in the mid 1:50 50s, if memory serves me correctly. So they're only about half a second to a second off the pace of a fully fledged modern Gen 3 supercar. So these things absolutely fly down through the middle section of the circuit. This is where the Tomasi car is particularly strong, through this switchback, the left and the right. Look at those flames flicking once again. There's the Jarvis car I just saw on the outside of turn number 13. There it is towards the hill climb. So that's where that car has come to rest. Unfortunately, the Jarvis machine going no further in this first encounter for the weekend. There's a battle further on between Barch and Sims I just saw at the top of the camera shot. So much action in this opening encounter. I do want to come back to my previous point though about Hollinger behind the wheel of the Taunton machine. Taunton had a big crash at Sandown. We wish him a speedy recovery. He picked up an injury when he hit the wall at Dandenong Road. So he's lent Hollinger his machine for this weekend. We wish Jeff Taunton a very speedy recovery. Hope to see you back at the racetrack very soon.
And here we go. So still Steve Tomasi trying to outsmart Tim Slade, and around the outside, going the long way around. That's what he tried to do on the previous lap. Trying to get underneath him there at the moment, down through the northern sections. So Tomasi, as you mentioned there, I think you said before, but I think Michael Barch might have put a pass down on Matty Sims too for another position, back for our 7th and 8th position too on that previous lap. Here they come. Listen to the sound of these things in our blend line TV coverage. They go past our microphone and our camera down that northern section. Terrific sounding race cars, and down underneath the turn 6 hairpin. Nothing between them. Look at the massive flame there. I know we've got a barbecue festival here this weekend. That might come in handy later on.
Everything's going on, isn't there? There's line dancing, there's wood chopping. We've got lawnmower racing down towards turn number 1 as well.
How'd you go with the whip cracking?
Yeah, well, that was the first thing I heard when I arrived this morning. I thought there was some thunderstorms or something overhead, but no, it was the whip cracking that was taking place earlier this morning.
There's a picture of the Jarvis car parked out there, as you mentioned before. It was a bit of a sad sight.
Oh, Miles Bond, speaking of sad sights, has come into the lane, the South Australian. That's not good news. So we're losing them a little bit early on in the weekend, but hopefully they can be repaired.
Miles was having fuel issues in that car. In fact, he was using too much fuel, and they were actually running out of fuel. So not too sure what the issue is now. It's the same problem. That car's had a massive rebuild between race meetings. It hasn't raced since last year. So it's had a brand new engine, gearbox, it's some body work done on it, it's had a full kit convertible done on that race car. The local South Australian rotary driver there, he's unfortunately got himself back into pit lane.
Time has just elapsed, so that means there will be one more lap to go. Final lap of the race then. Will Slade hold off the fast-charging Tomasi? Look at the run that Tomasi's got down the straight. Is he going to have a look down there? He's certainly thinking about it, isn't he? Shows the nose in the right rear vision mirror of Slade, but didn't quite have a crack, wasn't close enough on that particular occasion. He is hounding the tail of the Skyline down through turn number 3, lost the rear end there, did Tomasi, out of the hairpin, and that's cost him crucial crucial ground, but look at the aerodynamic performance of that thing through turn number 5, forcing Slade to go defensive into the hairpin. Slade didn't run it in too deep though. That was nicely judged. That's why he is such a talented driver and raced in supercars for oh so many years as they plunge down the hill. This is very much on at the moment. It is Slade from Tomasi down through the back section through turns 11 and 12. Look at Tomasi fighting the wheel, trying to get the best exit he possibly can, and again it bursts into wheel spin right at the end of the corner, which again loses in that crucial ground, but again catches it straight back up at the next high loaded corner. This is going to go right down to the wire. Hopefully the wildlife don't get in the way as the bird goes across the screen. This is going to go right down to the wire. Turn 17 you would think is Tomasi's last real opportunity, and he knows that. It's all squirrely on the exit of the flat out right-hander. Slade sort of went half defensive there and he didn't get the greatest exit. Tomasi might be close enough for a lunge. He thought about it. He isn't. Slade's just got to get the power down smoothly and he will hold on. What an intense battle that was. Tim Slade takes race 1 of the sports sedans here at the Shell V-Power Motorsport Park. What a battle. Tim Slade taking it officially by just under 0.2 of a second. Martin and Caro, what a battle.
Terrific battle up the front there. Look how far they're dominant they were coming in front. We're still waiting for our third place goal. This is the Michael Bartsch. And I think that was the Robertson car in front of it was. So our director of the series there, just coming through in the 33 Monaro, the Victorian champ.
He's come on really strong late on, Bartsch. He got past Sims a couple of laps ago and he is honed in on the tail of the Holden directly ahead of him, but I think it might be a case of too little, too late. He's not quite close enough around the final couple of corners, and Robinson will hold on to 6th place in the end. But Bartsch, that's a good sign for him though. He really came on strong. Yeah,
leading our South Australian Sports Sedan Series. 37 car there, it's a Davison entry there coming through, and Bernie Stack there in the final position. That's an iconic livery, isn't it, that car? Gee, they could tell a few tales, that livery.
Yeah, certainly.
Pretty cool race car. So just back through for their Jeremy Davison to come on through.
Yeah,
and you finish in the FD RX7 there.
They had an issue in qualifying. The throttle wasn't working, a break in the wiring, so they had a bit of a job to do between qualifying and the race. They repaired it, and he finished in position number 9. So here are the results then. Timmy Slade taking the victory by less than 0.2 of a second from Steve Tomasi, the championship leader. Stephen Lacey coming home in 3rd in the Innovation race car, ahead of Ryan Humphrey and John Hollinger in the 2nd of the IRC machines. Michael Robinson coming home in 6th, just ahead of Michael Bartsch. Matt Sims finishing a lonely 8th. Jeremy Davidson, as we saw, in 9th, and Bernie Stack finishing 1 lap down in the iconic Kmart Commodore to round out the top 10. Couple of DNFs. Miles Bond in the RX-8 came into the lane, and that man that we can see on the screen, Ash Jarvis, not finishing in position number 12, and that's the reason.
A flat tyre.
Yes, the left rear has very much let go there, so that is the reason for his retirement. Welcome back to the Shell V-Power Motorsport Park for the Burson Auto Parts Bend Classic. You can see the 999 machine of Brad Shields is back out there after troubles yesterday. That is fantastic news. Yesterday, Tim Slade, Supercars driver Tim Slade, took race victory in a very unique Nissan Skyline. Let's find out a little bit more about this machine.
Hi, I'm Brad Sherriff, and I'm here at the Bend with my new R34 sports sedan. The car runs one of our billet RB engines. It runs a Hollinger MXT transaxle. The car predominantly is a floor pan car. It's got some non-factory parts in it, quite a few of them. And we're at this stage, which it's pretty early days for this thing, but look, right up to the point in time, let's see what happens in race 1, but yeah, so far so good.
Yeah, I guess the idea of me coming along was just to try and help out a bit on the driving side. I think, you know, Brad has obviously built an amazing car, and his head's very much in the engineering and engine side of things. So I think he finds it hard to switch off from that mode when he's driving and concentrate on driving. So yeah, we were meant to do the test day Thursday and sort of gauge where he was at speed-wise, and then make a call on, you know, who was going to drive it for the rest of the weekend.
And the answer was Tim Slade. So great to see him behind the wheel this weekend, and great to have a chat as well to the man behind the car, Brad Sherriff, the Nissan R34 GTR. What a beast that is, and taking victory yesterday. And what a titanic tussle it was, though, along with Steve Tomasi, and those two will start on the front row of the grid side by side for this second race of the weekend. Martin Ancaro is back alongside myself, Dan McCarthy, for this one. Here is the grid. Tim Slade starting from pole alongside Steve Tomasi. Steve Lacey in the Innovation Race Car will start from third alongside of Ryan Humphrey in the Falcon. John Hollinger, another Innovation Race Car, from fifth alongside Michael Robinson. Then we've got South Australian Michael Barch from seventh. Matt Sims out of position number 8. Then Jeremy Davidson, Bernie Stack in the V8 Supercar, Miles Bond, Ash Jarvis, and the back on track Brad Shields in the little Fiat. We'll look out for that bright red machine at the tail of the field. One of the front runners normally in this series. Look for him to march forward as we await the lights to go out. They have done. We are underway in the National Sports Sedans race number 2. Look at Shields already. He's in fact taking to the grass. 2 wheels on the inside as he has already got 4 positions. A lock up for Lacey. He's got that just about stopped, and it's tight in the mid-pack. Humphrey's been hung out to dry in the Falcon, and through comes Shields as well. So Shields is already up in and around the top 5 positions, and he's trying to get a good exit. Look at it, fighting in the rear, trying to get the power down. He has now done it. He's through on Hollinger, and even had a little bit of a look on Michael Robinson as well. That thing is ultra fast. Bang on the brakes, down through the gears, up the inside of the Holden. What a start from the 999, and he's nailed the exit as well. He is on an absolute mission. He wants to join Slade and Tomasi at the front, and he's certainly going about it the right way on lap number 1.
Major rear end rebuild in that 999 Fiat Coupe. Gee, he's got some pace. We know the car's capability, and Brad Shields' capability as a driver. See the drifting competition, hill competition in the background there. Don't get confused. That's Ryan Humphrey in the XC Falcon, the Western Australian, behind John Hollinger. So it's pretty frantic there in that mid-pack pretty early as well. As they just view. Michael Barch. Looks like Miles Bond's also back. They've had a few fuel issues in that car over the weekend, the local South Australian driver. So Ash Jarvis there, who didn't finish his race yesterday, started from the rear of the field as well. Another position here from Brad Shields. Gets up on the inside there of Steve Lacey. So that gets him up into third position. There's the front 2 of Tim Slade and Steve Tomasi. Positions 1, 2 just in front of him, but this is the one we should be looking at. It's the Fiat. You have the 999 car there of Brad Shields charging his way through the field.
Humphrey's really struggling with the rear on this lap. He lost it at turn 12, and again coming out of the final corner, and that allows Jarvis to roar up the inside. Jarvis, an unfortunate DNF early on in race number 1 yesterday, but he has moved forwards nicely to start this one. Already up into position number 7. His next target is Robinson, just ahead, and there he is, the number 33 machine, the Victorian in the Holden Monaro, the big 6-litre powered V8 car, sponsored by Bell Real Estate. And in fact, he's going to launch a move, is he, already up the inside? The number 44 locking up a little bit, I think, there, but Robinson has sailed wide. He's going to get a nice run, though, as a result of that, and just about holds on to the place. Good battle here between the 2 Monaros.
Certainly is. Certainly here for Ash Jarvis, who's had to come from back of the pack, failed to finish yesterday, and so has to work his way through the field. He's got the Western Australian behind him in the much older school XC Falcon in car number 30, and the 11 car, Matty Sims there, the Albury resident here this weekend, in that really cool BMW just behind them with a big aerofoil on the back of it, just like a lot of the other sports sedans here as well. And in fact on the inside there of Robertson at that turn, so picks up another position, and the Turfile entry picks up that position in front of Michael Robertson, the director of the series. He's trying to fight his way, so the Monaro's just changed position there. So Ryan Humphrey was on his tail too there of the Robertson Monaro, just out of the screenshot.
Nice
and there we go, so there we go, so on the inside as I predicted, and Humphrey on the inside there at 17, and he'll have a nice straight line speed down through that section, and he'll get across and pick up that position. So the Western Australian gets himself up into, what are we up to, 6th position, now in front of Michael Robertson.
The South Aussie Barch has got a nice run on the BMW, and he moves on through. He moves up a position. Oh no, he doesn't, not quite. The BMW has great top-end speed and is able to fight back, so they're scrapping a little bit further back as Humphrey in the number 30 just about remains ahead of Robinson, who tried to fight back there, didn't he, at turn number 1. Ultra late on the brakes, but not quite able to do so on that particular occasion. Sims, he races this in various different categories, not only in sports sedans, but in Super TT and a whole range of different series. But whatever he is in, he's always fighting in amongst the pack with his big horse-powered BMW, and he's doing a nice job out there at the moment in the number 11, the New South Welshman 1996 BMW E36. It's got certainly some aerodynamic aids compared to what it came out the factory with. Look at the splitter on the front and look at the rear wing on the back, and that rear wing is certainly paying dividends around the middle sector of the lap, right on the tail of that machine ahead, the Monaro ahead of him. And that was a cool little battle. Oh no, Bonds lost a tyre, a puncture, and it looks to me like a bit of rim damage as well. So the left rear has gone down for the local South Aussie in his RX-8. He's not driven that vehicle for quite some time, so great to see it back out here under the sunshine at the Shell V-Power Motorsport Park, but you don't want to see any damage to it. It's pristine.
A bit of rim damage here. I wonder if he's had a bit of contact with somebody else. That's normally what happens when you bust a bit off the rim like that, so I don't know if we're going to get caught that moment. But anyway, there's now Matty Sims. He now behind Michael Robertson, so this now brings us into 8th and 9th position on track. And there's the hard-charging Michael Barch just behind him in the 6-litre Toyota 86 body shell car. That's a typical build for a sports sedan, lightweight body, and a 6-litre motor under there. There is a lot of motor squeezed underneath that bonnet, I can tell you. Not much space for anything else. So the GC and J Constructions entry. Barch spent a bit of time in V8 Utes for some considerable time. And
there's the replay of what happened.
That's the reason. So he's torn the tyre off the rim there on that spin.
I think the spin was because of, the puncture, I reckon. Not quite sure, but that's my theory there. I think that was the result of the spin, because you don't normally spin there that early. Normally you touch the grass and spin a little bit later, so that's my theory. But look at Shields. Fastest lap of the race, last time by 1.1 seconds faster than Tomasi ahead of him. Tim Slade has pulled out a lead of 3.9 seconds out in front, so Slade leading by nearly 4 seconds. And I'm hearing reports from the team at Blendline in my ear. They're reporting that this car has a potential penalty hanging over its head. Not quite sure on the reasoning, but a penalty hanging over the Fiat, which would be a real shame if that is the case. Maybe he wasn't in formation at the start of the race. We saw him quickly bolt out to the right-hand side on pit straight. Maybe he wasn't in the grid box. You still have to stay until the lights go out in those grid boxes, so running along those rows on the grid. If you're on the right hand side, you stick to those rows. If you're on the left hand side, you stick to those rows. And he did pull out pretty early, maybe a little bit too early for Brad Shields, so I think that would be a 5-second penalty, generally is for a start infringement. However, the 5-second penalty added to the time currently would not drop him any positions. He would remain in position number 3 on the road. He's got a hefty gap back to Steve Lacey in the first of the IRC cars. The margin back to him is 13 seconds. Lacey and Hollinger, the 2 IRC cars, are nose to tail, separated by about 2 seconds. So they are line astern, 4th and 5th on the road at the moment, head of the first of the Monaros. But it's great to see this car back out there. Certainly had a lot of troubles yesterday. The rear of the car was jacked up all day long after some practice issues on Friday, so they've spent a whole 24 hours getting that car repaired to get it back out on the race circuit, and boy oh boy are we glad that they have. It's an immaculate machine and great to hear it. It sounds absolutely phenomenal, it looks absolutely phenomenal, and we have 3 proper old school sports sedans out at the front of the field. I love the innovation race cars, but those machines are pretty much, they drive them as they are, whereas these are proper old school sports sedans. I should say both of the IRC cars in this field, both Lacey and Hollinger, both of them have been improved a little bit. Extra 100 horsepower, no ABS, so they aren't standard innovation race cars. They themselves have also been improved.
They certainly have. Brad Shields there now, so of course that penalty to be incurred. And going back a little bit further.
So Tomasi has fallen behind Shields and is just ahead of Lacey. So something has happened in that lap. 15 seconds slow. He's got a lot of grass in the front.
Look at the grass into the front grille there of that Hollinger engineering car.
He's been off track.
So he's at a moment somewhere. Not too sure, but there's that big flame that was picked that out yesterday. So that's the reason why Steve Lacey has certainly picked up a fair bit of ground off that race car as well.
I noted as well that coming onto pit straight, John Hollinger also ran his machine wide coming out of the final corner as well. So he's pushing the limits, trying to catch up to these 2 in the bright green innovation race car that's normally run by Jeff Taunton. Sadly, Jeff at the last round, our early championship leader, had a crash down at Dandenong Road, and unfortunately did pick up a bit of an injury in that accident. So I'm sure Jeff Taunton will be watching on from home. We wish you a speedy recovery, mate. Hope to see you back at the racetrack in the not too distant future. But really nice to see he's lended his car to John Hollinger, and John Hollinger's doing that machine justice inside the top 5 here.
Certainly saw the footage of that accident, Sandown. That was a massive accident. He's probably lucky to actually walk away from it. It was a really big moment. No doubt Jeff will be tuned in here today. As you just mentioned, there's Steve Lacey there. Some of the IRC cars as well, innovation race cars that we were just talking about. And just going past Bernie Stack there and the iconic Kmart livered Commodore there. That's a new race car for the Stack group. Been on the wheel there this weekend. We've seen plenty of the Stack names certainly associated with Porsche racing here in SA and also in Australia. So good to see him with a brand new different spec of race car here for sports, international sports sedans here this weekend.
I'm hearing reports trackside that this car went off down at the fast sweeper through turns 8, 9 and 10. So that's why he's got so much grass and debris in the front of the vehicle and why he lost so much time. But that's also why he's been able to reset and get back on with it on this lap. It was just an off-track excursion, nothing more than that. However, with just a minute to go, I'm a little bit concerned. Fortunately, we're towards the end of the race. There is a lot of debris in the front grille, which of course feeds all the air to keep the engine cool. So if that's blocked up with grass and debris, that can cause the engine to potentially overheat. So fortunately, we are towards the closing stages of this race, but I'm sure that inside that car, Tomasi's engine temperatures, those dials will certainly be rising, and he will not be enjoying that sight.
So Lacey's now getting up a little bit closer behind him at the moment. You see the margin there at the moment, so that's his for third and fourth position on track, as we can see there on our timing screen there on the left-hand side. Tim Slade looking like another clean sweep. In fact, 11 seconds between him and Brad Shields, who's got a penalty occurred with 5 seconds, so he still should retain that position. That's unofficial, of course. That's just my calculations, but certainly that's the way things are looking at the moment.
Certainly is. I'm looking at their fastest lap times, Tim Slade and Brad Shields. 1 minute 51.13 for Tim Slade, 1 minute 51.10 for Brad Shields. Now, if that does not whet the appetite for the final race of the day, when those two are potentially starting on the front row of the grid, I don't know what will. That's set to be an absolutely titanic tussle later on today. Cannot wait for that. But of course, we've still got a bit more of this race still to go, as the third place driver, Steve Tomasi, tips it into turn number 1. It's been an almost faultless year for him. Leading into yesterday's first encounter, he had taken all but one race victory, and the one race victory he didn't win was a DNF at Sydney Motorsport Park. Yesterday was the first time on track that he'd been beaten all season long, and this is round 4 of the series, and it took a fully accomplished supercars driver to go and knock him off his horse. Unfortunately, though, today Steve Tomasi has been his own worst enemy, flying off the road on this section of the road. That's why he's slid down to position number 3. But nevertheless, it's been a fantastic start to the year in the Hollinger National Sports Sedans for season 2025 for Steve Tomasi. It's been a really good year to date. But we're still on the closing stages of race number 2. I don't want to speak too soon, but out in front, Tim Slade has just extended that margin, or had done, until the last lap. The last lap was very slow for Tim Slade. Not sure if he made an error, but he is still out in front in the Racetech R34 Skyline. Look at the aero on the tail of this machine. But Tim Slade, 2-time Supercars race winner, comes around the final corner. And speaking of twos, he's going to make it 2 from 2 so far this weekend. Timmy Slade, the South Australian, takes victory here at the Shell V-Power Motorsport Park. Great drive from Brad Shields, certainly threw everything at it early on to finish in position number 2. No, he doesn't. With that 5-second penalty, he lost time on the last lap, and he's actually been pipped by Tomasi. So what happened to Brad Shields there in the end? He lost a little bit of time, but Steve Tomasi set his fastest lap of the race to close the margin down, and as a result, he will inherit position number 2 due to the 5-second time penalty for Brad Shields. So late race twist there, Mark.
Yeah, it certainly is. This is a bit further back. That's Michael Robertson with still Matt Sims still behind him. This is for 8th and 9th position. They've had a pretty good tussle through throughout the race. Ash Jarvis has just gone through just before them. That'll be Michael Barch in the 6-litre Toyota 86. And then we'll go through to Bernie Stack as well. We didn't see any Jeremy Davison in that race either, which is another one that was missing from yesterday's action. But gee, isn't this going to be set up for a terrific next race as well, with these cars up the front? And yeah, terrific, especially off the rolling start as we've seen throughout the weekend. And there goes Bernie Stack there in the Kmart Commodore. Still got the original livery on that, and it still has got the original names on the back window as well. And those names being Murphy and Richards.
Steve Richards, of course, there's many Richards these days. Of course, Clay doing good things in Toyota 86s. So Jim, Stephen and Clay Richards, 3 generations of racers in the family. But taking the victory in that one, Tim Slade, by a margin on track of 8 seconds. But let's not forget, 5-second penalty for Brad Shields will drop him to 3rd behind Steve Tomasi. So those two swap around post-race due to the penalty. Steve Lacey was only 8/10 behind Brad Shields with that penalty implied, but he will finish in 4th. John Hollinger in a lonely 5th place, head of Ash Jarvis, first of the Monaros. Then we have Ryan Humphrey, Michael Robinson, Matt Sims and Michael Barch rounding out the top 10. And then beyond that, on the second page, we had Bernie Stack who finished in position number 11 in that Holden Commodore supercar that we were just talking about. He finished a lap down. Miles Bond, we saw the RX-8 have an issue. The left rear went down on that car, and Davison in the rotary powered Mazda sadly did not make the start of the race. They had throttle cable issues yesterday. The by-wire system wasn't quite working and couldn't get any throttle, so maybe that problem has reared its ugly head once again here. So much action here over the last few months, including the AirTouch 500 at the Bend, and what a race that was. Went the way, of course, of Brodie Kostecki and Todd Hazelwood. They didn't have such luck at Bathurst a couple of weekends ago. But speaking of V8 supercars, up next we have the sports sedans, and there is a familiar V8 supercar towards the tail end of that field, being driven by Bernie Stack. We had a chat to him earlier on in the weekend to tell us a bit about the vehicle.
Bernie Stack. I'm a local driver, local businessman. Been racing cars now for about 50 years. Started with Formula V, and then Formula Ford. We did some off-road racing as well for 8 years. My first Bathurst was in 1977 in a Volkswagen, and I thought I'm not going back again without a V8. So we went back to Bathurst in 82 and I raced V8s for a few years on and off. This particular car here was a Gibson Motorsport built car, the last one that they built for Gary Rogers, for Greg Murphy to race. All in original condition, and we bought it to try and keep it in that condition. And we bought it from a collector who bought it from Gary Rogers at the end of the 2000 Bathurst, and in that particular race they came third. So it's got good history. It's got a logbook up to date. And it's a bit of hard work around here because I haven't driven this track before, but it's a great car to drive. It's got great brakes. It looks really good. Still got the Kmart livery on from when it was raced back in the late 90s and 2000. And there's a heritage category now that it might fit into. It's 25 years old, so there is heritage touring cars, but unfortunately they couldn't come to this meeting. Otherwise we would have had a bigger field. So to give us a run, they put us in with the sports sedans.
And there he is out there on the racetrack, a man that's been around this sport for many, many decades, as he was alluding to, and really cool to have him here as part of the series this weekend. Was set to be in heritage touring cars, but instead in this category, national sports sedans. And here is the grid. Tim Slade will be starting from pole position. He's got 2 from 2 so far this weekend, but I think he will be challenged by both of those behind in this one. Steve Tomasi really inherited second position in the last race. He finished on the road in position number 3 after an off-track excursion midway through the race. However, Brad Shields got a 5-second penalty, and I was correct at the time. It was for starting not quite in line. He was jinking out to the right-hand side, not in the grid formation, and that is why he copped a 5-second penalty, which demoted him to 3rd in that bright red Fiat. Steve Lacey will start from 4th, the red IRC car ahead of the bright green machine of John Hollinger. Ash Jarvis in the Monaro will start from position number 6. Ryan Humphrey from 7th. Michael Robinson from position number 8 on the grid. And then beyond that, we have Matt Sims in his BMW, Michael Barch in the very fast Toyota 86, Bernie Stack in the Commodore, and Miles Bond in the RX-8. Unfortunately, Jeremy Davidson will not be starting this one, unfortunately. Rolling start for the National Sports Sedans. I'm Dan McCarthy. Alongside me, Martin Ancaro has remained in the box. We're really looking forward to bringing you this one. It's been 2 scintillating encounters already. This will be absolutely no different, I can promise you of that. The question is, Can they dethrone Tim Slade? Shields and Slade were separated in fastest lap terms by just 100th of a second earlier on today. If he can get past Tomasi, I think he could very well be a match for Tim Slade. But let's see what happens. We got 13 minutes on the clock. We're about to let them rip here at the Shell V-Power Motorsport Park. Look at Shields right up behind Tim Slade. He's made a good start as well. He's already up the inside of Tomasi. But look at Lacey. He's going defensive on the inside in fourth, but John Hollinger's still having a look up the inside. Oh, big lock up for Lacey. Can he get it stopped? Will he hit Tomasi? He has. Yes. He has. Tomasi was able to correct it. Only 3 wide.
No.
Oh, Jarvis in the middle spins around Lacey. 3 into 1 does not go, and around goes the Innovation race car. That was really awkward down there at turn number 2.
Oh, he's got some panel damage too.
Got some damage to the skirt. Oh, and Tomasi's got a puncture. The right rear's gone, and around he goes. Around he goes, and he's going to hit the wall. No,
oh, yes, he has.
I thought he was going to escape there for a moment, but he just touches the wall with the front nose. What a shame for him. P2 in both of the races so far, and let's not forget the championship leader. So that is crucial points that will go begging as we've gone safety car already. No surprises there. But what a dramatic start to that race. Lacey spinning around, Tomasi spinning around, contact at turn number 2, 3 wide. No doubt, the reason for the safety car. But out in front, the top 2 unaware of what action unfolded behind. Oh, Martin and Caro, that was something.
That was pretty tough, trying to get those 3 cars down into turn 2. And someone had to get them unglued there, and unfortunately Steve Lacey the first. And unfortunately that's punctured Steve Tomasi's tyre, and that's thrown him off. Once you get out in that grass area too, at that speed, it's just going to slide you into the concrete barrier down the other side. And I've seen it happen a few times.
There's been a bit of confusion further down the field. Miles Bond, I think, was overtaking under safety car. He's led a couple back through, so a bit of confusion further down. So they might, stewards, just have to make sure everybody is in the right order before we get things underway. If they don't, they'll just probably slap them with a hefty penalty. That is a huge no-no in motorsport under safety car conditions, which has been deployed for, as the name would suggest, for safety. Overtaking under those conditions is a huge no-no. And for the first time this weekend in the sports sedans, the safety car has been deployed. In fact, across all categories, it's been so clean, so green throughout, and a real shame that it's come to this right at the end of this one. And great to see so many different machines, a great field of sports sedans competitors here this weekend. This is something a bit different, the big old Falcon. Of course, we've got a couple of Monaros out there at the V8 supercar as well. And of course, he did mention the name Gary Rogers. We'll come on to that in a moment. Let's have a look then at this replay. So, Lacey locked up, understeered into Tomasi. Tomasi saved it, but Jarvis went through the middle of the pair of them and then damaged both Lacey's right rear and Tomasi's right rear, and also spun Lacey. So Jarvis certainly poking the nose in where it was not welcome by his competitors. And then this was the damage, the right rear letting go for Tomasi, which spun him all the way around and just nosed in to the wall, unfortunately there. What a heartbreak for him. The championship leader has made it back into the pit lane, which is good news. If they can repair this and send him back out, any finishing position will be good points for his championship. The man who has finished on the podium in all but 1 race so far this season. It looks like it could be 2 though in this one, but I did want to come on to the point. Gary Rogers Motorsport, of course, famous for fielding Monaros, the 24-hour winning cars, winning both editions, fielded by Gary Rogers. Of course, we lost the great man Gary Rogers earlier on.
That's one of his old cars out there as well. That's Gary Rogers' repair car. We heard that earlier. Sorry, Dan.
No, all good. Yeah, I was going to say a real gentleman of the sport, always gave young kids a chance. Boy, oh boy, has he brought through some youth in his time. If we look back to the early noughties, Garth Tander, Jason Bargwana, he gave Jamie Whincup his first shot in V8 supercars. In more recent times, of course, Scott McLaughlin, James Golding, but even some that aren't in supercars now, the likes of Nathan Hearn, Jordan Cox, who are doing well in Trans Am machinery at the moment. He's just given so many people over so many decades a real shot at a victory in supercars. Always fielded front-running machines, did Gary Rogers, and we have to say sorry to the Rogers family, and yes, we are sincerely missing the late Gary Rogers.
Lights out here. Safety car has switch the lights off, so we'll get a pretty quick restart here. Obviously with Steve Tomasi coming back on his own steam, so no recovery vehicle needed. So it is going to be Slade, and now with Brad Shields right up behind him this time around on the restart. And Ash Jarvis has actually fared pretty well from after that indiscretion, after splitting the other two and knocking them out of the race. So there might be some interesting talks in the stewards room after this race about that, I would have thought.
Here they come then around the final corner. We're set for a restart. Tim Slade, you see as soon as he put the foot to the floor, the rear end squatted down and he has roared away. The R34 has absolutely bolted ahead of Shields. It's too wide further back though. Robinson up the inside of Barch for position number 5 and makes it stick even before they get to the braking zone. Oh no, the South Aussie is in too deep, he's in too wide. And the 86 also loses out to Humphrey as well. So that was a shame for him. He was saying to me he has been suffering with understeer a bit this weekend. That wasn't understeer, that was just a case of in too little too late on the brakes.
Yeah, it certainly was. Gave Ryan Humphrey, the West Australian, went straight through there in the XE Falcon. And now all of a sudden Michael Bart's just got Matt Sims behind him in the 6-litre BMW. I think we nearly got the pass done there too, so they're going to go side by side up the climb there to try and up to turn 7. Someone's going to have to back out there because you're not going to go through there too wide. And in fact, Sims has done it there. Got through there as clean as a whistle to pick up that position.
Barch got a whole armful of that understeer that I was just talking about midway through the hairpin, which bowled him well wide.
Steve Lacey's back out there too.
Had to come right out of the throttle. So that's why he lost the position as they head on through turn number 12. Barch has been competing in the South Australian sports sedans for a number of years, and he said to me yesterday he's potentially looking at doing a few Victorian rounds next year. I'm sure he'll be very welcome over there. They have a great field in Victoria of sports sedans, but he's being hounded at the moment by the recovering Steve Lacey, who of course was caught up in that drama at turn number 2 early on in this race, and he's moving it straight to the inside, late on the brakes, and he moves on through. That was with relative ease. How many can Lacey pick off before the end of this race? He's got 5 minutes plus 1 lap to go at the end of this final race for the Hollinger National Sports Sedans.
So Steve Lacey gets away from Michael Barch, and is that Steve Tomasi back out there?
Certainly
good
is.
job. Good job of the crew down there to get that wheel changed, and obviously straightened up a bit of the bodywork too that would have been pretty much damaged on the front end of that car as the contact with the wall. Oh, it's got a bit of rear end damage too from that earlier indiscretion too from Ash Jarvis, and there he goes through from John Hollinger down through the sweeper. So actually Jarvis is now up into 3rd position in front of John Hollinger, so that's 3rd and 4th position on track at the moment in the Innovation race car that makes its way through.
I really was looking forward this weekend, seeing the return of Darren Hossack, the multiple-time National Sports Sedan Series winner, was set to make a return after a decade away in the John Goulet-prepared Audi A4, but sadly that thing caught a light on Friday in practice, and that did him out for the rest of the weekend. Hopefully that machine is repaired in time for the final round of the series, which takes place at Phillip Island, the Phillip Island Magic, a fantastic event. So that's in around about a month's time, I think, just over a month, and that'll be brought to you on the screens of Blendline TV as well. So if you're enjoying this, make sure you tune in to that coverage from Phillip Island in a few weeks' time, November 31 to 23. So make sure you tune in to the last round of the Hollinger Engineering National Sports Sedans. It's on further forward. Here we go. He could go 3 wide. Surely Lacey's not going to go for 2 now. He thinks better of it. Robinson's not going to give this one over though. In fact, he runs in a little bit too deep, but he's still able to hold off Sims. They've all compromised their exits, so I think Lacey was the only one with any relative reasonable exit. Out of the final corner they come. Who's got the straight line advantage? It looks like Robinson. Look at the margin that the Monaro's pulled, and he's going to be followed through by Lacey. There might be a 6-litre engine under the bonnet of that BMW, but he has been absolutely torn to pieces down the pit straight there. He had no answer to either of the cars that he was fighting against, but this now is where the BMW comes into its own in this section of the circuit. Lacey's moving forwards, isn't he? Where can he get through on Robinson? This is for P6, so it's been a very solid recovery, and there's still time to move further forwards as well. He shows the nose. Robinson's leaving him some room. Good stuff there. Nice racecraft from Robinson. He knows Lacey's faster. His fight really is with Matt Sims in the BMW, so let the Mustang-bodied car through and get back on with your own motor race in the fight that really you have a realistic chance of achieving.
He basically brings the 2 sports sedans back together. And so Robinson there from Matt Sims, the Albury-based race car driver from New South Wales, and of course the Victorian there, Michael Robinson, the director of the series, and they're actually fighting it out for position 6. Well, actually 7 at the moment. Take a little bit further back. Super cool race cars. The Greenworks entry there, Michael Robinson, been competing in national sports sedans for quite some time, and the Victorian champ as well. Goes back down. And Sims on his tail this time around, so he's looking for a pass here.
He's hooked
down across there at 16, and it puts him in good stead at 17, and gets him past beautifully. Can he hold on to it? Yes, he can. So now he picks up that position.
That was all set up through the fishbowl. He took a really nice line to open up turn 16. Got a great run through the flat-out right-hander, and it enabled him to get quickly to the inside and move up into the tight turn number 17. So that was set up several corners earlier, but down the straight, Robinson fights back late on the brakes as the Monaro, and he's back through, but has he been able to pull it up? You bet he has. He ran a little bit wide just at the end, and bang, back comes the BMW, back up the inside, and back up into position number 7. What a tussle. He's back through though, and now he's got to try and break away. The middle sector is where the BMW really has its benefits. The middle sector, the fast sweeping corners. He's got to try and pull away from the Monaro now before they get back onto pit straight again next lap.
And this is what he's going to do. He takes full total advantage here. Up the climb there to turn 7. He's pitched a nice gap down through this section. But it's the open straights is where Michael Robinson will come into the fray, as he just described there, Dan. So then the back part of the circuit down through turn 10. And they come, so that's Ryan Humphrey. You know, he's got Steve Lacey behind him. Also with a much faster race car. One of the innovation race cars in the field. And the old school XE Falcon there, Ryan Humphrey from Western Australia. He's already been to this track already today. Come in and compete in the South Australian Motor Racing Series as a part of the SA Sports Sedan Series here last month. So he's made the journey back across the Nullarbor again. That's the problem with being based in Perth. There's a lot of driving and transport involved.
Certainly is.
But Steve Lacey is going on his hammer at the moment, and I reckon Ryan will probably just let him go through. As we get towards the end of this race, only not too much more to go. Might get another lap in here. Well, it looks like Tim Slade's opened up.
No, he hasn't.
No, he hasn't opened up a much. I just hadn't seen him because Shields is now right on his hammer. I was just looked up at the timing screen there and saw how close it was.
Last time by, Slade was 4 seconds slower, and that's why the margins come down, and Shields goes all the way around the outside. A huge move if he can pull it off, and he's got the traction out of the corner as well. What a pass later on the brakes around the outside and takes the race lead. Shields, you superstar, what a move.
Now can he hold on to it? That's the thing, this is the final lap. So Brad Shields in the 999 Fiat 124. Well, we thought this Slade car, the Race Tech R34, was going to be just about unbeatable weekend, but once they've actually sorted this problem out with Brad Shields' rear end, not his rear end, but the car's rear end, we've just confirmed that right. And they did a massive amount of work. They had to find some machinery and get some machine work done on that car to get it. They've had a lot of work to do on the Saturday to get that car back together, and it's doing a great job at the moment. The car certainly is very fast.
I think Slade's got a problem.
He sure must have an issue. That car's a brand new car too for the Race Tech Performance crew, and of course from Brad Sherriff. He's a good get-together of cars. Now that's a checkered flag, so victory there from Brad Shields. Well, that's a very exciting victory, the last race of the weekend for National Sports Sedans. And it's done it the hard way. He's finally got there. It's been a tough weekend, but you take the victory any way you can, and he's done that beautifully. I wonder if Tim Slade's got an issue. He'll take up second position, and then we go back to Ash Jarvis and Hollinger just behind them. Now here's Steve Lacey on the inside of Matt Sims. That's another position change to sixth position. I think Sims...
No, that was Lacey trying to move through, but they've changed on this lap. So Lacey was ahead at one point, but now Sims has got back through, and it's going to be a drag race to the line. It's going to be millimetres in it, but it goes the way of Sims by just 1/10 of a second. Very, very tight between those two. So Lacey dropping back late on in that one behind Robinson and Sims. So he did all the hard work. He got right on the tail of Humphrey and then dropped back again. So not sure what happened to Lacey on the final tour. Disaster for him around the final lap. The same can be said for Tim Slade. Almost a perfect weekend for him. Pole position, race victory in race 1 and the fastest lap, race victory in race number 2. However, with just a lap to go, there were problems. It's been suffering with a bit of overheating throughout the weekend, but they've been able to nurse it home. And I think that might be what has been the limiting factor on the final lap. And speaking of limiting factors, well, this is certainly not a healthy-looking Calibre, is it? There's panel damage all over it, but fortunately, that's all it is. Just bodywork, just cosmetic stuff. He'll give it a bit of cosmetic surgery before the next round, and he'll get that back out on the racetrack in a bid to take the 2025 title. So it's going to be valuable points anyway, despite finishing 2 laps down for Stephen Tomasi. The 2018 national champion is looking to take his second crown this year, and although he's taken a bit of a hit there in the final race, points-wise, he does hold a comfortable buffer going into the final round of the season at Phillip Island. He pulls to the inside of the circuit as we look at the finishing order. So Shields taking it on the final lap with a brilliant move around the outside of Tim Slade at the turn 6 hairpin. The 2-time Supercars race winner couldn't do anything about that and seemed to be nursing some problems late on in that race. We suspect overheating. Ash Jarvis finished in position number 3, although there may be a little bit of an asterisk over that one with the turn 2 incident on the opening lap. John Hollinger finished just behind in position number 4. He'll be racing an innovation race car at Winton next weekend. He beat home Ryan Humphrey, Michael Robinson, Matt Sims, Steve Lacey finishing in P8. He'd have certainly wanted more from that one. Michael Barch, the South Australian, beating home Miles Bond. So 2 South Aussies rounding out the top 10 in what was a hugely dramatic final race for the National Sports Sedan Series. Beyond that, outside of the top 10, we had Bernie Stack in position number 11. Steve Tomasi did finish, albeit 2 laps down, although he might not be classified because I'm not sure he's completed enough of the race, and I'm actually seeing recorded on our screens as a DNF on the timing screen. So he didn't finish despite finishing the race. Finishing 2 laps down in a 7-lap affair does not count as enough of the race distance, so Tomasi will score 0 points dramatically in that one, but will still go into the final round with a healthy championship buffer. Davidson did not make the start of that race. Thoroughly enjoyed having National Sports Sedans, the Hollinger Engineering National Sports Sedans, as part of the Bend Classic this year. Certainly a fine addition to the schedule.